Welcome to the Bleeding Edge Report with Chris and Treg, where tech meets its match.
We are here for another episode of the Bleeding Edge. We appreciate you stopping by. Today, we have a very special guest with us. His name is Chuck Brooks, and we're extremely lucky to secure Chuck's time. We were talking earlier, and he seems to be one of the busiest people that I know, and I've talked to in a long time. But at any rate, here's some highlights with Chuck's resume I just wanted to go through. Chuck is Cybersecurity Person of the Year by Cyber Express, top 2 global cybersecurity expert and influencer. He's worked at several roles at tech companies, including IBM, Intel, AT&T, and named top person to follow with technology on LinkedIn. And I don't know how he got that. I've never heard of that, but that's impressive with 98,000 LinkedIn subscribers. Yeah, that's a lot. Very good. And also Chuck, adjunct professor at Georgetown University, and also received presidential appointees executive service by 2 U.S. presidents. I can go on and on and on. It's a very long resume, and we're lucky to have him. And before we get into it, I just wanted to mention a few things. With Chuck, he can be found at brooksci.com, which is Brooks Consulting International. He obviously can be found on LinkedIn. Chuck, he also just got done co-chairing a cybersecurity conference in Rome, Italy, which included many countries in the Vatican at the conference. And he has a couple upcoming conferences he's going to co-chair. One is on aviation security in the fall in either New York or Washington, D.C. And then last but not least, he got another conference in Israel on Israel cybersecurity. And anyway, I can go on and on and on, but that's my introduction, and we're very, very lucky to have him. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris to kind of start the Q&A portion. So again, thanks a lot, Chuck.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Hey, Chuck. Yeah, thanks again for showing up. We really appreciate the time. And I just wanted to kick off with the Italy event that you just finished up last week on cybersecurity. I mean, last week, unless you were on vacation, hanging out in the jungle or something, everybody knows that it was a major week for technological development. So I imagine that there was a lot on your plate in discussions there. Could you just share a little bit what some of the highlights were for you?
Sure. Yeah. First, I want to say it's really also good, I think, for Americans to be over in Europe to experience, because they have a different perspective on things. One thing is that they're much more conscious of privacy, particularly with marketing, and they have the GDPR. So that's always a topic. But on everyone's mind is now the increase of attacks against critical infrastructure. And Italy's been attacked. Everyone's basically coordinating because just like the shields up here for CISA in the United States, but they're worried about primarily outcomes of the Russian-Ukraine conflict, where Russia has a capability to do a lot of damage to a lot of the companies and infrastructure all around the world. And they're also worried about, what is not so much a sleeping giant anymore, China, who's devoted a lot of their efforts to not just being cyber capable, but also stealing a lot of the IP and technologies from companies all over the world. United States is also a victim of that. And so it looked at the environment that's happening there. And I think that we realize that there may be a change now after COVID. We've become much more digitally connected. I think we're going back into more of an allied world, particularly with Iran, North Korea, Russia, and China getting closer and coordinating, collaborating. And what this portends, for everyone is that those groups, which are the four probably most strongest adversarial cyber attackers, are going to share tools and methods, and we're going to be in more danger. So there was some wake-up calls there, but I think it was great to really start talking and looking at this and looking at companies in Europe and companies in America being in the same boat.
That's yeah, I can completely understand where the call to arms is, but didn't you also mention in the discussion a bit ago, I think you mentioned that the Vatican was also, a participant in this, and you don't think of that every day. I mean, what Why were
Yeah,
they there?
you
What did
know,
they
well,
think?
first of all, the Vatican is its own country, so it's
True.
interesting. But I think they have a forward-looking perspective of the world, and they have to look that we're transitioning to a totally digital economy. We're dealing with emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, 5G, quantum, that obviously have some moral issues to them too. And of course, cyber is everyone's problem. They have a lot of assets there too. So I think to be part of the dialogue of these issues is important to the Vatican. And we're really happy to have one of the leading persons there at the conference who could speak to those issues. And also he was very accomplished. He has a PhD and a law degree too, to be able to give a little bit of background on what is happening and why it's of interest.
Well, that's great. I mean, I'm really glad to hear that, there's a coalition coming together in order to really do a lot of thinking on this, because as you know, the estimate for the cybersecurity industry is quite huge in this world. And so we're going to take all the smart people we need to plot these solutions and work together, as you said. But one of the things we want to focus on today, if we can just dive right in, is something you just mentioned that even the Vatican City is interested in, which is artificial intelligence and how that's going to work, right? So let me just lay it out for you, what we've been talking about at Gallatin Consulting, which is essentially there's two sides to this coin, right? On the one side, AI can be used to help shore up cybersecurity strategies. However, on the other side, AI can be used by cyber criminals to make it easier for them to penetrate systems. With that being said, from your perch, from your perspective, how do you see AI accelerating cybersecurity as an arms race?
Well, I think it's already begun, for one thing. I think if you look at the budgets now that the Pentagon is putting into AI, trying to catch up, it shows the concerns. But as you mentioned, artificial intelligence is really it's a tool and it's an enabler. It's mostly machine learning. I mean, we're really looking at primarily that as the capabilities, but still, machine learning has tremendous capabilities in itself. So it's really changing the way that cybersecurity is practiced. I mean, we have a shortage of people, so its automation abilities mean a lot in terms of being able to do some of the less human-oriented tasks, like it could read logs and analyze logs. It could look for threat intelligence and do a lot of different things like that. And what you mentioned too is the other side of the coin. As it's a tool, it could be used, and it is being used. It's being used a lot now for phishing attacks. They're automating phishing attacks instead of maybe a few thousand people going out of time. They could send out 100,000 or even 1 million phishing attacks. They could also look for vulnerabilities on networks, which they are doing too. So we're really in a dilemma here. We have to look at this is a tool that really is a game changer in terms of cybersecurity, and a game changer in terms of a lot of other things too. But really what it is doing is augmenting the capabilities of the human in a big way. And this is really changing the landscape. And as we all know that, the adversaries are difficult to find. They're already hidden a lot in Eastern European countries and elsewhere, and difficult to prosecute. And the fact that they have these tools is almost asymmetrical because they can target anyone at any time. And it also changes the equation that, most people think, or most businesses, small and medium businesses, think, oh, no one's going to bother with me. But the fact is that they will bother with them, particularly with ransomware, and they are. And that most small businesses, I think it was 49%, have experienced an attack, and or maybe another 20% don't even know about it. But medium and small businesses are part of the equation for Chinese, Russian, and other criminal hacktivist games too. So there's a lot to worry about.
So what is an example of you have the phishing emails of today or yesterday, last year. I mean, what would be the difference in the phishing emails that AI creates? I mean, are they just more complex, easier?
Well, they could be more. They could be more complex because they could also use the best graphics. They could also use deep fakes, all kinds of things. But they've even tested them where they can activate by metrics. So if a facial recognition comes on, someone they want to target spearfish, they could trigger it with that. So it brings them much more capabilities. But the main thing is the volume. I mean, really, it doesn't cost them anything to send out millions of phishing emails, and if you get less than a 1% response, you're still successful. So it really just makes even the problem of having a worker shortage even more severe, because now you need more people and you need more capabilities to defend against all these attacks.
Right.
Hmm.
It's daunting from that standpoint. And with the launch or the announcement of ChatGPT 4 last week, my understanding is that it's about 100,000 times more powerful than ChatGPT 3, which the punchline is that it puts it on par of the human brain, right? And so if you leverage that and use that with 1,000 different bots to generate phishing ads, they're going to be pretty darn good, right? And the social engineering involved to surround that particular email just makes it even more difficult for a human being working in a cubicle or at home, right, to discern what is real and what is not. And it's going to lead to trouble. I think it's safe to say that it's not a question of if, it's just a question of when are you going to get tripped up by a phishing email at this point, don't you think?
I think so. I think everyone's vulnerable. I mean, the former director of CIA fell for phishing. I've seen even in practice rounds where they send out something from the CEO or the accounting department.
Yes,
we'll have a large amount of people opening the attachment. So no matter how much training you have, there's still always a vulnerability there, because human nature is human nature, and sometimes we're not so careful. Having said that, there's ways to do things with multi-factor authentication, strong firewalls, and also administrative control over or who gets to go where on the internet if you're a company. But you're right, exactly what you're saying about the chat GPT. I think it really is a tool that will be and is being used, from what I understand right now, to create all these new kinds of phishing attacks. And the newer version obviously is going to be more powerful. It's really a supercharged search engine with context. So it's changing the way that we're operating in a lot of ways. People are enamored by it. I had a demonstration in my class at Georgetown a few weeks back, and the students were just saying, "Oh, this is great. This is great. We can write papers on this." But to know you can't, because I'll recognize it. But
right.
It really it is another tool that's an enabler for us to do much more analytical work and produce more writings and produce all kinds of products, including bad ones like malware.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling Treg yesterday, I saw a story in Pennsylvania, out in the middle of Pennsylvania, not in the city, but there was a practical joke built is by high school students. It was a deep fake of their school principal. And it's it's just amazing. The practical jokes that we used to pull was to pick up the guy's car and park it sideways in the parking space, to make a point. But now it's deepfakes. And if a high schooler can do it, then certainly a full-grown adult with some nefarious thoughts and motives can cause a lot of damage. And this is extremely concerning to all of us, which we need to pay attention. But that in mind,
it kind of seems like for those folks want to do nefarious stuff with AI, they're kind of out of the gate first with this. I mean, they're already developing things, and I'm sure there's stuff, already being completed with AI, including, all the email generation that you're talking about. That would be even more. But it seems like on the defensive side that finding an application or developing the applications to where you can embed AI in them is going to take longer. So it's going to be kind of trying to catch up.
Yeah.
Is that what would you say to that?
Disadvantage on the defensive side, because you don't know who and when is attacking where. And so, and what type of attack. So you're always at a disadvantage. And you're right. And people underestimate a lot of these criminal hacker gangs because they're wealthy. They're buying up talent. They're getting some of the best programmers and coders. They're looking at ways to infiltrate all the time. And they're also getting state support. We underestimate them at our own peril. And Unfortunately, this is going to be a wild ride, I think, for the next couple of years, particularly with the ransomware going on, because it fuels a lot of their activities. But artificial intelligence and chat GPT is just another tool that they'll be using. And you're right, what you said earlier is that you can do these deep fakes fairly easy just with the open source stuff, but they even have better stuff on the dark web, and they're using it too. And at some point we'll have to really be able to discern what's real and not real. And that's going to be a real challenge, I think, if the more digitally involved we become.
We were discussing that as well. Like, what new protocols will you need just to have a human to human meeting, right?
How do you
to make sure
verify
it's not a
real
fake,
human?
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. But
You're going to have triple verification, secret handshake,
There you
secret
go.
symbols that
Yes.
change every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
so
you probably have to have some sort of protocol saying, if it's you, do this first, and I'll recognize it's you.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
otherwise,
It could be something like that. So, yeah, I was just going to ask, just to widen this discussion a little bit from just AI, right? Where would you rank this type of cybercrime accelerated by AI that we just talked about? Where would you rank that in terms of top threats for cybersecurity this year?
I rank it at the top because, like I said, it's an enabler. And so you're looking at all these different kinds of attacks, but they all could be, assisted with artificial intelligence. And again, that also allows for small groups of hackers to be much more powerful, to leverage their capabilities, as well as the state sponsors that are openly using it now. And I think the difference is, I think there'll be much more financial crime oriented hacks because of the capabilities. We've gone from the brick and mortar now to the digital commercial world, and they could use artificial intelligence and get paid in cryptocurrency and get away with it. And they are doing it in a big way right now.
True.
It seems like just the breadth and the number of hackers and the kind of the cyber criminals is just going to expand now that this new tool's out there, because, hey, maybe they can get in on it and they don't have to, know as much. So,
You're right. I mean, you don't really have to. All you need is a computer. You could be anywhere in the world. And like I said earlier, you don't really. It's so difficult to prosecute. You have Interpol, but Russia's on Interpol too. I mean, they're not going to turn over their own people. And it's not just Russia. There's plenty of people all throughout the world that have an interest in doing criminal activities. We see it every day on the streets and the physical crimes, but more and more now on the digital crimes.
Well, my understanding, and I'm just asking if you can confirm this, is that you don't even have to know how to code anymore. You could just use ransomware as a service, isn't it?
Yes, and they're doing that often. Yeah, why?
It's not a
take the
joke,
time?
man.
Yeah,
It's incredible, isn't it?
it is incredible. It really is organized crime if you look at it. I mean, they've gone to the ways to make the most money in the easiest way, and being managed, ransomware capabilities are certainly one way. And when they also do it, they share the targets among themselves. So once one gets one, another will get one. So that's always the issue, whether you pay or not. And and for most cases, you're going to get hit over and over, even if you do pay.
So, yeah, it's just
so you just defined a whole new technology product category. Just let you know, you might be the first to coin that phrase there, Chris.
Well, no.
Ransomware as a service.
That's in print. That's not mine. That's
it is. Okay. It's already
in fact,
there.
I think Chuck wrote about it.
Yeah, they're actually doing it. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
you did. Okay.
Yeah, it's a real thing. But so if we were just to take a step back and look at maybe the 3 or 4 other threats for cybersecurity besides AI, AI is at the top. Completely agree with you on that. Where would you put, let's say, ransomware or ransomware as a service, and then maybe the other 2 or 3 that are hot this year?
Yeah. Well, ransomware is certainly up in the top 3, I would say, because one thing is it makes money, and most hackers are out to make money, and so it may not be the volume so much, but the targeting is getting more sophisticated.
Right.
They really took advantage of COVID and hit a lot of the healthcare industry, hospitals and clinics, et cetera, and very successful because, as we know, that they almost had zero security So they have no morals, and obviously they're looking to better these capabilities. And I say when you combine, it's really the fusion of technologies, the technology of artificial intelligence used with a phishing attack or with an insider threat attack or something. But it's there, and I think there's some other technologies that are probably factor in this. 5G as it comes online makes the latency issue go away, so they can even do more automated attacks. And also exfiltrate data quicker. So I mean, everything has every technology has a good side and a bad side, and so